we don't really realize how much of these sixes we may be consuming in our daily diet. But everything from nuts, seeds, vegetable oils, even peanut butter, and things like chicken, avocados, though some of these may be a healthful part of the diet, we must also recognize that in their own composition, they are much richer in sixes than they are to threes. There's really strong body of clinical research that demonstrates how omega-3 fats positively not just impact the heart, but the entire cardiovascular system as a whole. I absolutely love this product because it really is a synergistic blend that not only includes the omega-3s EPA and DHA, but it also includes red yeast rice and CoQ10.
Welcome everybody to episode number 14 of the Healthy Habit Podcast. We're talking with Nicole Gitlin, educator at Nordic Naturals. Nicole's passion for teaching others about health and wellness was inspired by her own health journey, a personal mission which drove her to become a certified holistic health practitioner, certified herbalist, and certified nutrition consultant. As a skilled bilingual educator, Nicole strives to deliver complex science in an easy to understand and retainable way to retailers and consumers, both domestically and internationally. In her leisure time, Nicole loves to garden, cook, and explore the outdoors. Nicole, thanks for joining us here today on your first time, actually our first time ever speaking, even on our previous platform on the radio show at 1100. Welcome to the Healthy Habit Podcast, Nicole. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Dr. Dan. I'm doing fantastic today. I really appreciate being invited on the show.
Thanks for joining us. So let's dive into it then. This will be heard in about March, mid-March, close to April. What's on the radar as we transition out of the winter months here? It's warming up now. We're heading towards spring. What's going on at Nordic Naturals?
Oh my goodness. At Nordic Naturals, we are stepping into not only our core competency of omega-3 products and really diving into letting the worldwide audience understand really the benefits, because it's outstanding that although most of us understand what omega-3s are, there's still that big disconnect because at a worldwide level, we're quite deficient in these omega-3 fatty acids. And so really happy that we're able to have that kind of audience to be able to support these benefits of omega-3s, and also being expanding into other essential nutrients that also support optimal health. So also growing in the other nutrient categories all the way from A through Z nutrients.
Amazing. So when we hear about omega-3s, there's omega, obviously 3s, 6s, but there's 9s and even other ones as well. So help us differentiate that a little bit. If someone, I'm sure most listeners to the show and customers in our store, they've heard of omega-3 fatty acids. They're aware of it, but let's do a little step back and differentiate those from the other types of omegas.
Correct. Yeah, I would love to, especially because, over the past couple of years, fat has really gotten a bad rep in our world over, say, but we really need to focus that there are certain types of fat, essential fats, that really support our overall health, because their end destination is our cell membrane. And so special nutrients like omega-3s, EPA and DHA actually support the structure and the function of every cell in the human body. And so whether that be a brain cell, a heart cell, or a liver cell, EPA and DHA actually support their structure and function, which is why we're virtually able to support every aspect of our health simply by consuming these important nutrients on a daily basis. And what's really important, one of the things you mentioned, especially with omega-6s, is that it not only plays quite a critical role within our cells, but what's important to differentiate here is that they play opposing roles within our cells. And so though we want to have a very healthy ratio between both, we have a ratio that is astronomical here in the US. It's estimated that we consume an average of 20 to 1 omega-6s to omega-3s. So 20 times more omega-6s than we do those omega-3s. And it is all due to that standard American diet. Those vegetable oils, packaged foods, fried foods that are really outstanding in our diets, especially those that follow that standardized westernized diet, and really lack that consumption of not just fatty fish, but also supplementation of omega-3s.
Got it. So let's dive a little bit more into why the omega 6s are so bad. And you mentioned a couple of those sources like vegetable oils, but where are these omega 6s coming from? Why are they so high in consumption compared to the omega 3s?
Whew, that is a great question, especially because we don't really realize how much of these sixes we may be consuming in our daily diet. But everything from nuts, seeds, vegetable oils, even peanut butter, and things like chicken, avocados, though some of these may be a healthful part of the diet, we
Hmm.
must also recognize that in their own composition, they are much richer in sixes than they are to threes. There is actually a wonderful app that our viewers can actually download themselves simply by providing their email. It's called education.org. And it's a really great app where you can actually enter food items and get the composition between sixes and threes. And just one
Wow.
of those examples, yeah, it's actually really incredible to see because what really blew me away was that just 1 ounce of peanut butter has over 4,400 milligrams of omega 6s
Right.
to just 3 milligrams of omega 3s.
Interesting.
And yeah, and so most of
Yeah.
us really think we overdo it on our threes when we're really overdoing our
That's
sixes.
amazing that you hit on peanut butter. That's a topic that comes up a lot in my one-on-one consultations here at the clinic. Is that's a major hidden fat source
Mm-hmm.
consumed by a lot of Americans. They go by the spoonful with the peanut butter, and it adds up so quick because it's so concentrated in calories and the omega sixes that you mentioned. So here we are
Correct.
eating this, thinking it's healthy fat, but really it's loaded with the omega sixes. So then, what bad do they do to the body? What are they doing that's impairing or negative to the body? The omega sixes.
Great question. And so that opposing rule that I was mentioning is basically kind of in an umbrella term. We're talking about the healthy response to inflammation or those pro-inflammatory responses within the body. And though most of us see inflammation as a bad thing, it's necessary part of our processes to let our bodies know that something is wrong and needs to change.
Mm.
However, we need to have enough omega 3s within our cell membranes to come up and clean up that debris left behind. And that's why that balance between both threes and sixes is absolutely critical and at every stage of life, because we'd be surprised thinking it's only adults that are really kind of plagued by this, but even young children, even into their teen years, we tend to have issues with diets and their palatability to certain nutrients or food items. And most of them aren't consuming cold water fatty fish, or even supplementation may completely be out of the picture and sometimes tend to be some that are the most deficient. Actually, here in the US, there's some astounding statistics that about 95% of US adults do not consume an adequate amount.
Hmm.
And that translates to only 1% of US children are, which means that 99% are not. That's really outstanding in those numbers that really shouldn't even be there to begin with.
They're not consuming enough of the omega threes.
Correct. And that's exactly the problem. They're inundating their daily diets with these omega 6s through packaged foods, everything that's fried foods, and really not consuming cold water fatty fish or any supplementation. And so that's why those ratios sometimes tend to be as high as 20 to 1 or even higher in some individuals.
And that ratio 20 to 1 is 20 of the omega 6s compared to the omega 3s, where it's supposed to be closer to 4 to 1 or 1 to 1 even. They're supposed to be either equal or maybe just 4 times more of the omega 6s, not 20. And so, yeah, and then those are
Correct.
obesity promoting, and they're just a bunch of calories that are doing only damage and promoting fat on the body. And most people's fat consumption is coming from the omega 6s, not the omega 3s. So tell us
Correct.
about omega 3s. We just got out of Heart Month, Nicole. February was Heart Month, and that's the number one cause of death in America, really in the whole
Yes.
Western world, to be honest. So heart
Mm-hmm.
disease, strokes, heart attacks. What does the science show regarding omega 3s and blood pressure and triglyceride levels and things of that nature? I see a lot of blood pressure issues here at the clinic. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I would love to kind of dive into all of those because, as you did mention, not only is heart health related conditions the number one cause of death globally, but when we think about the fascinating and complex organ that the heart is, it's something that we really have to think from the get-go, because our hearts actually start to beat at about 4 weeks of gestation. And as we head into that adult life, it beats an average of at least 100,000 times per day. And over that full lifetime, it pumps an average of 3 million barrels of blood throughout that lifetime in the body. And so when we're thinking that I mentioned earlier, EPA and DHA, they support the structure and the function of every cell membrane in the human body. And of course, heart cells are no exception. And the thing here that we'd like to note is that there's really strong body of clinical research that demonstrates how omega-3 fats positively not just impact the heart, but the entire cardiovascular system as a whole. And so there's a few key mechanisms that we really have to focus on, such as being able to support that healthy response to inflammation within the artery, supporting blood pressure and triglycerides. And so to elaborate a little bit more on those, there's actually really a lot of clinical data backing this up, because there's such important cardiovascular risk factors. And one of the things that I really always like to focus on when we're talking about the science with talking about healthy blood pressure is looking at meta-analyses that overall have been published many throughout the recent years, but this particular one was published in the American Journal of Hypertension, and they found that consuming omega-3 supplements may be as effective, if not more, than those lifestyle changes, such as things like reducing sodium or even increasing exercise in reducing blood pressure. Not only is that already a great feat on its own, but the study also indicated that at least 2,000 milligrams or more, and this is combined EPA and DHA, not total omega-3s, per day actually could reduce not just diastolic pressure, but also systolic pressure as well. And
That's
I think
impressive.
it's not only impressive, and I think one of the things you noted, I think, is so many individuals do come into our stores and see practitioners for high blood pressure, particularly due because there were new guidelines that were set for healthy blood pressure. And I know a lot of individuals, when those guidelines were changed from, it was 140 over 90, and then they were changed and lowered down to 130 over 80. And a lot of individuals really kind of thought it was a way to get people on medication. However, it really, when looking at the data in the indicators, that particular guideline was made so that individuals can actually make changes to their health before the risk stages. And so that's why we're seeing that. I believe it's up to about 25% of the population are now considered to be at that borderline level because of those guidelines and, you know, all of the changes in our diets and habits.
So tell us how a product like Omega or Ultimate Omega 2X can play a role here. And that's just one featured product here with Nordic Naturals. I'm going to start with the heaviest hitter of them all. You know, that's the famous one used clinically by a lot of practitioners is Ultimate Omega. Then we also have products like EPA Extra, Omega Curcumin, which has the from turmeric and the omegas together. And then we even have CoQ10 and Omega LDL. But let's start with the Ultimate Omega 2X. Tell us about this product and how is it being sourced?
Absolutely, yeah. Ultimate Omega is not only one of our most popular products, but actually is also a concentrated fish oil formula, which means that for those individuals not only looking for a therapeutic dose, meaning that you can really reach those higher doses in fewer servings, but this particular formula is made from a blend of anchovies and sardines, always 100% wild caught, sourced from sustainable waters, and always certified sustainable by Friend of the Sea, which, by the way, is something that's really huge in today's world, looking at sustainability of how the fish are being sourced and the protections and the quality and the health that matters also to our oceans. And so, yeah.
I was going to say, can you quickly expand a bit on the name Nordic Naturals? Like, why that name? You know, is that a big source, popular source for healthy cold water fish? Tell us about real quick.
Overall about the company? Absolutely.
Well, the name Nordic Naturals.
Yeah. So Nordic Naturals is a company that was started back in 1995 with the love and pure passion for pure, fresh, and palatable fish oil. And so our goal has always been to perfect standard technology and perfect the process so that we can create a powerful formula that's also palatable. We do not want to have a negative experience or a rancid oil. And so the quality of an oil is of utmost importance, but also the sourcing, because the type of fatty fish and also the concentration and it being wild caught versus it not, it completely has a different nutrient profile. And so these are all of the things that we really focus at Nordic Naturals to always have our products be sourced from 100% wild caught fish, from some of the cleanest waters on earth, certified sustainable by Friend of the Sea. And actually, one of my favorite things that we do is that we have an oxygen-free patented process. And so what that means is that from boat to bottle, we get rid of oxygen in that environment, because oxygen can create rancidity within these fats. And we know that fats, not only can go rancid quite quickly, but can actually cause more harm than good. And so we actually introduced nitrogen. And the reason that we actually introduced nitrogen is because it's heavier than oxygen, and it helps to push the oxygen out of that environment. And so that's what maintains that freshness throughout our entire manufacturing process, even up to the moment that the bottoms themselves are being filled with the product. They're actually flushed themselves with nitrogen so that there's no oxygen essentially in there until the consumer opens up the product. And that's why we're known for that palatability and that freshness.
So tell us, when people say rancid fish oils and oxidize, you just mentioned you don't want the oxygen to build up there. You want to flush it out. What is that referring to? What's going on there exactly when a fish oil becomes rancid, and how does that happen?
Yeah, so a oil, especially fats, can go rancid quite quickly when they're exposed to things like oxygen, heat, or light, due to their fragile molecule stage.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking at is that the way that they're protected is of utmost importance, so that we don't experience that fishy smell, that burp back, or even just that negative experience overall. And so that's why the way that you protect them away from things like heat, oxygen, and light is what's going to create a better palatability. One of the things that allow us at Nordic to really be able to even reach that particular effect to the consumer is that we have a certificate of analysis. We actually now have a QR code off the side of every single one of our new labels, and that gives them access to our certificate of analysis. One of my favorite things on there is that you can actually see oxidation within this third-party certificate. And it's marked over a TOTOX value, which is the value over two different values that are measured for oxidation across every part of manufacturing. And the allowable standard for oxidation just to sell within our shelves has to be 26.0. And I marked the cod liver oil in my fridge this past weekend at about 2.1, 24 times more pure than the allowable international standard, and it's all due to that oxygen-free patented process.
So can you get too much omegas? Like if someone starts taking cod liver oil, can you overdo it? I mean, how does that work? Would you be wanting to take that multiple times a day, or maybe once with dinner? How do you look at that?
So omega-3s is definitely a nutrient that you want to consume on a daily basis because they're rapidly utilized by the body. And so a daily consumption is essential. Now, of course, with anything, we can essentially overdo it. However, it's almost really difficult to overdo it with omega-3s just because of our consumption of omega-6s. Okay. However, that balance is what's key after all.
So we touched on the omega-3, the ultimate omega-2X. Tell us how this differentiates with the omega LDL. I'm doing lipid panels all the time here. Every single week we're looking at blood panels of the LDL numbers, the HDL, the triglycerides, and even the advanced cardio IQ numbers, where we look at the actual size of the LDL particles, if they're medium, if they're small, then how much of the big, large, buoyant HDL molecules we have. Tell us about the product Omega LDL.
Yeah, I absolutely love this product because it really is a synergistic blend that not only includes the omega-3s EPA and DHA, but it also includes red yeast rice and CoQ10. So aside of the benefits that we did, of course, mention of EPA and DHA today, the difference here with the red yeast rice is that it's a red pigmented yeast that actually is grown on rice. And one of the key areas is that it's been shown to support those healthy blood lipid and cholesterol levels. And in conjunction with that, CoQ10, I mean, not only can it arguably be one of the most potent antioxidants, but it's one of the nutrients, CoQ10, really this coenzyme that's present in every cell of our bodies. However, the highest concentration is found with those organs that have the greatest energy demands. And of course, one of those tends to be the heart, because when we're thinking about kind of like the mitochondria within the heart, just one heart cell alone can actually contain between 3,000 to 4,000 mitochondria,
Wow.
really making it those, our cells' workhorses and really needing that energy support of this CoQ10. So in my opinion, it is such a synergistic formula with the combination of all of those nutrients together.
That's a great breakdown, Nicole. That's so important. The mitochondria, that's our energy producing factories. They're making the ATP for us at all times. And you're saying the cardiovascular system, the heart especially, has one of the most concentrated sources of the mitochondria.
Correct. Yeah. The amount of energy that is needed for the heart is absolutely out of this world. And why such an important nutrient like the coenzyme Q10 is necessary to support that energy production output that is really needed by the heart.
And so this would improve parameters ideally. No, nothing's ever guaranteed for anybody. Some people, they might take it once a week and they were instructed to do it 4 times a week and they didn't do it and they didn't see the benefits. Then they say, oh, this doesn't work. But what if it does? Ideally, over the years, I've read reviews on the product like Omega LDL. We've seen improvements in numbers like HDL, the triglycerides, LDL, total cholesterol. Those are some of the numbers to look out for, and blood pressure as well, Nicole?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. And so we can hit on one more. I want to, 3 is a perfect number of products I wanted to share as a first episode here with Nordic Naturals. We mentioned the Ultimate Omega 2X, the Omega LDL, and maybe we can finish off here with just the standalone CoQ10. Is that through Nordic Naturals as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the great thing with CoQ10 is that it's such an important nutrient that we have it as a standalone formula, but we also have it in addition with our Ultimate Omega, so our Ultimate Plus CoQ10. And so individuals can either choose to consume it standalone, but it is a great combination and synergistic nutrients to consume together, which is why we offer both of those formulas.
Okay, great. And we got a couple minutes left to go here. And maybe we can do a recap then and bring it all together here, Nicole. We talked about cardiovascular disease and 3 different products here at Nordic and how people can at least start having some of these things on their radar. What's a good summary here for our customers? As we're speaking right now, people are walking through the store and listening to us. They might be needing some blood pressure support, or they might have a family friend or a relative who has passed away from heart issues or heart attack, stroke, etc. Give us a little recap for today's episode.
Absolutely. So my recap would be to really just remember that omega-3, ZP, and DHA are deemed an essential nutrient. That means that our bodies don't produce very well, meaning that we have to get through our food and supplementation. And really remember that we have head-to-toe benefits and can virtually support every aspect of our health, one of those being heart health, really supporting such critical organs that keep us going each and every day.
And where can people find out more?
People can find out more by visiting our website at nordicnaturals.com, where they can get all of our company information, product information, as well as a lot of information on studies. And actually, we have a great area where you can go to our Healthy Science, which is vetted science and research reported articles that have been written by our in-house specialist, and really suggest our consumers and retailers to visit our website to learn more, and also to go ahead and visit us at our store for any of their needs that they need at Healthy Habit Health Foods.
Thanks, Nicole. And again, that's nordicnaturals.com, nordicnaturals.com. I'll share all this below in the description box right under the video. We do have about 90 seconds, though, Nicole. I want to give the viewers and the listeners a little sneak peek of the next time we have you on why it's maybe a good idea to combine curcumin and the omegas. Give us a little sneak peek.
Oh my goodness. It is such a lovely consumption, especially with the synergistic benefit. Curcumin, of course, has been really heavily known for its role in a healthy response to inflammation. However, one of the key things that I wanted to note here is that our long vita optimized curcumin that is found within our formulas is not only such a heavily studied form of this curcumin, however, it's a very novel ingredient. And what's really unique is that it has a specialized vehicle. Think about it as that transport method to actually getting it across to where it needs to be and still be able to be marked on our red blood cells even after that consumption. And so this is actually something that was collaborated with UCLA, with the neuroscientists, and what they were trying to study was the effects that curcumin can have on the aging brain. And it took them over 10 years and more than 200 materials until they finally landed on this particular fatty acid complex that's really just a heavily bubbled of fat. And it's what allows it to transport into having basically a better absorption.
Got it.
And this is an optimized curcumin that really affects a wonderful synergistic effect with our omega-3 complex.
We can dedicate an entire episode to curcumin alone, Nicole.
100%.
Thank you so much for your time today. And I hope everybody enjoyed episode number 14 here with Nicole Gitlin representing Nordic Naturals. Thank you, Nicole, again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dan. It was a pleasure being invited.